Hey everyone, I'm really excited about a new library I've been working on. It's very experimental. I haven't really seen this approach before, but I just wanted to run you through it and see what you all reckon. First, a little bit of background. I was working on a game the other day and I wanted to put in some AI, so I started doing some YouTubing. I came across this GDC talk where Kevin Dill's talking about another talk by Chris Hecker, where they start talking about like he calls it structure versus style, but it's really about being able to compose behaviors. Um, so an analogy would be, he talks about, like the languages we use for graphics, creating triangles, or for HTML. We've got like we've got ways for, let's say, for example, in HTML of structuring our data in a very modular way, and then being able to uh, change it, I guess styling it, with, for example, CSS. And the analogy um, to behavior, I'll just quickly find it here, is that if you're able to come up with some way of describing things in a composable way, then you're going to have a really effective system for creating behavior. Okay, and so I was having a look at that. I'm using Bevy at the moment, so I was having a look at some Bevy solutions that are able to do this modularity. And I wasn't able to find one, so I gave it a go myself and came up with this library called Gamai. So Gamai is basically it's solving that problem. It's saying, okay, how are we gonna describe some behavior and then be able to compose that together. If you've worked with ECS before, you might like that. You can think of some problems that might occur. So let's say, for example, in ECS, all state is stored in components. So let's say you had a run state for a component that gets for a run state for a system that gets used everywhere. Then the question is, well, how do you make that run state only for that system and not for like another copy of it that you're using in another tree, in another behavior tree, for example. And so I started to think about these problems, and this is what I've come up with. I'm really interested to hear some feedback about it. So I'll just go through the descriptions, and I've come up with different names. You can think of these as extensions of ECS components, right? So a prop is an extension of an ECS component that takes a generic argument, which is of type node, basically an AI node, which tells that prop where it is in a given tree, which means we can have per node per tree state without sort of like crossing over or conflicting states. And it's the same with actions, which are essentially like the Bevy systems that that also take this node argument, right? And you can use that to get your props. So, for example, the running prop is one that's able to say, "Hey, this action is running," And so then once you have your props and you have your actions, you can then compose those into a tree. And I'm using some RSX library. You don't have to use it, but it becomes quite verbose without it. So it's very light wrapper. It basically takes these actions or another tree and puts them together. And it's going to give that tree a special ID, which means that if for example, used my tree, then it would be its own tree with its own props and its own actions. And then if you were to compose my tree as a child of another tree, then it would become a part of that other tree. So then you've got that composability where for each tree has their own actions and their own props. Once you have those done, you can have a look at running it, where there's like just like any Bevy sort of any Bevy library, you've got your bundles, which are um, used for instantiating entities, and your plugins, which will add all the systems for a given tree. So here we're adding the plugin for my tree, and then we could add the running prop for the just at the root of that tree, which would be enough for it to get started. Then you're able to run that, and this would just be running these two in sequence, hello and world, I guess. Yeah. So that's a sequence. That's a sequence. You call that a selector, I guess, which is just an action that has children that has to decide which children to run. I've got some more information on, like, for example, system ordering. So, in the case of utility AI, you might want to run something before the parent. This sort of goes into a bit of detail of how you might do that. So, like in the same frame, you want to, for example, say how favorable would it be for this action to run. Then you'd use a before parent action, and there's a couple of other sort of points in the life cycle you might want to use. And I've also got a bit more information about how those selectors and how, for example, a utility selector might look. Um, but these are all so this utility selector, for example, it's using like a score a score prop that I've got in the library. But if you wanted to create your own score prop and do your own create your own selectors, you can absolutely do that as well. And yeah, so it's all very, like, I'm still like working out. I haven't even made any games using this. I've only made like a bunch of tests. But yeah, I'm looking forward to yeah, having a bit more of a play with it, seeing what other people think of it, and yeah, just seeing where it goes.